If you grew up in the '90s, you remember that final jump. Willy escaping to freedom. It felt like the perfect ending. But more than 30 years later, several people from that film are gone, and the rest carry stories far darker than anyone expected. What really happened behind the scenes of Free Willy is nothing like the ending you remember. Let's find out. August Schellenberg as Randolph Johnson. August Schellenberg was born on July 25, 1936, in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. At 57 years old, he played Randolph Johnson, a wise native elder who guides Jesse in Free Willy, 1993. His presence added emotional depth and cultural weight to the story. His early life was marked by instability, including time in care facilities and leaving school young to survive on his own. He later trained at the National Theatre School of Canada from 1963 to 1966, even adjusting his age to gain entry. Through the 1970s and 1980s, he faced limited opportunities, especially as an Indigenous actor, often taking smaller roles while building credibility in a restrictive industry. His breakthrough came with Black Robe, 1991, which earned him a Genie Award, followed by his role as Sitting Bull in Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, 2007, which brought him an Emmy nomination. In the early 2000s, Schellenberg was diagnosed with lung cancer, which gradually forced him to reduce his workload. As his health declined, he stepped back from acting and focused on family, while also mentoring younger actors through workshops and cultural programs. Even in his final years, he remained a respected figure for his contributions to Indigenous representation in film. He passed away on August 15, 2013 in Dallas, Texas, at the age of 77 after battling lung cancer, and was buried at Sparkman Hillcrest Memorial Park Cemetery. His estimated net worth at the time was around $1.5 million. His legacy lies in a decades-long career that helped bring Indigenous stories and characters into mainstream cinema. Keiko as Willy, Orca. Keiko was born around 1976 near Iceland and was about 16 years old when he appeared as Willy in Free Willy, 1993. Unlike any other cast member, he wasn't performing a fictional story. He was living one. The film's message about freedom mirrored his real life so closely that it would later spark one of the most unusual rescue efforts in entertainment history. His life before the film had already been defined by captivity. Captured in 1979 at roughly 2 years old, Keiko was moved between facilities in Iceland, Canada in 1982, and then to Mexico City in 1985. By the early 1990s, his health had deteriorated significantly. He weighed only about 3,493 kilograms, was kept in warm, chemically treated water unsuitable for orcas, and suffered from chronic skin infections. Even more critically, he was isolated from his own species, living among dolphins instead of other killer whales. The success of Free Willy changed everything. The film generated global attention, and the end credits even included a hotline that received hundreds of thousands of calls from viewers demanding better conditions for Keiko. In response, the Free Willy Keiko Foundation was created in 1995, raising more than $7 million. On January 8, 1996, Keiko was transported by a Lockheed L-100 Hercules aircraft to the Oregon Coast Aquarium, where he was placed in a 7.6 million-liter rehabilitation pool. Within a year, his weight increased to approximately 4,364 kilograms, marking a major recovery. The next phase was far more complex. On September 9, 1998, Keiko was flown by a U.S. Air Force C-17 to Iceland, where he underwent years of gradual reintroduction training. On July 15, 2002, he was fully released into the open ocean, the first captive orca in history to reach that stage. However, the outcome was not what many had hoped. Although he swam over 1,500 kilometers to Norway and interacted with wild orcas, he never fully integrated, often staying 100 to 300 meters away and repeatedly seeking human contact instead. On December 12, 2003, Keiko died of pneumonia in a Norwegian fjord at the age of 27, despite receiving medical treatment just days earlier. In the wild, male orcas can live between 50 and 90 years, making his lifespan notably shorter. His story remains both inspiring and unresolved, a rare case where a film led to a real-world rescue effort costing millions of dollars, yet still could not fully restore what had been lost. Jason James Richter as Jesse Greenwood. Jason James Richter was born on January 29, 1980, in Medford, Oregon, USA. At 13 years old, he played Jesse Greenwood, a troubled boy who forms a life-changing bond with an orca in Free Willy, 1993. He was selected after beating more than 4,000 candidates across the United States and went on to lead all 3 installments released in 1993, 1995, and 1997. But behind the film's box office success of over $150 million worldwide for the first installment was a level of pressure that a teenager could barely control. After Free Willy 3 ended in 1997, he was still a teenager. Yet the image of Jesse continued to follow him, making it difficult to transition into new roles. From the late 1990s to around 2009, he stepped away from acting and focused on music, playing bass for the band Fermata. This shift was not random, but a direct response to early fame when a child becomes defined by a single role and struggles to move beyond it. The most serious setback came in 2018 when Richter was arrested in California in connection with a domestic violence incident and later sentenced to probation. The timing was critical, as it happened during his attempt to return to acting after years away, damaging his public image again. Instead of disappearing, he moved into behind-the-camera work. In 2013, he wrote, directed, and produced the short film The Quiet Loud, later producing The Last Rampage, 2017, and Natty Knox, 2023, while also returning to acting in The Little Things, 2021, alongside Denzel Washington. As of 2026, Jason James Richter is 46 years old and remains active as an actor, producer, and director, with recent work including Final Heist, 2024. His estimated net worth is around $500,000. His story is not one of steady success, but of early fame, long absence, public setbacks, and a gradual attempt to rebuild a career on his own terms. Michael Madsen as Glenn Greenwood. Michael Madsen was born on September 25, 1957, in Chicago, Illinois, USA. At 35 years old, he played Glenn Greenwood, the strict and often conflicted foster father in Free Willy, 1993. His performance added tension to the family dynamic, creating a contrast between authority and emotional distance that shaped Jesse's journey. By the early 1990s, Madsen had already begun establishing himself as a distinctive presence in Hollywood. Just 1 year before Free Willy, he appeared in Reservoir Dogs, 1992, a film directed by Quentin Tarantino that grossed over $2.8 million initially, but later became a cult classic worldwide. That reputation followed him into later roles in films like Donnie Brasco, 1997, and Kill Bill, Volume 2, 2004. Behind that steady output was a more unstable reality. At various points, Madsen admitted that financial pressure influenced his choices, leading him to accept lower-budget roles simply to maintain his lifestyle and support his family. With 6 children and inconsistent high-paying opportunities, his career became less about selective roles and more about constant work, reflecting a side of Hollywood rarely discussed openly. His personal life took a darker turn in recent years. In January 2022, his son Hudson died by suicide at the age of 26, a loss that deeply affected him. That same year, he faced legal trouble, including a February 2022 arrest in Malibu for trespassing, followed by another arrest in August 2024 on a battery charge involving his wife, with bail set at $20,000. These incidents highlighted the growing strain of grief, long-term alcoholism, and personal instability. On July 3, 2025, at approximately 8:25 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, Michael Madsen was found unresponsive at his home in Malibu, California, and was pronounced dead at the age of 67. The official cause of death was heart failure, with heart disease and chronic alcoholism listed as contributing factors. A private memorial was held on August 1, 2025, attended by close friends and collaborators, including Quentin Tarantino. At the time of his death, his estimated net worth was around $6 million, reflecting a career that combined decades of recognizable roles with the financial and personal challenges that followed him throughout his life. Jayne Atkinson as Annie Greenwood. Jayne Atkinson was born on February 18, 1959, in Bournemouth, England. At 34 years old, she played Annie Greenwood, the compassionate foster mother who provides Jessie with stability in Free Willy, 1993. Her performance brought emotional grounding to the story, balancing the central conflict and giving depth to the family dynamics. Unlike many actors who chase early fame, Atkinson built her career on discipline and formal training. After moving to the United States in 1968 at age 9, she pursued academic excellence in acting, earning a bachelor's degree from Northwestern University in 1981 and an MFA from Yale Drama School in 1985. She focused heavily on stage work during the late 1980s and 1990s, earning critical recognition, including a Tony Award nomination in 1999 for The Rainmaker, establishing herself as a serious theatrical actress. By the 2000s, Atkinson successfully transitioned to television, becoming widely recognized in high-profile roles. She portrayed Karen Hayes in 24, 2006 to 2009, Aaron Strauss in Criminal Minds, and Secretary of State Catherine Durant in House of Cards, 2013 to 2018. These roles highlighted her strength in portraying authoritative and complex characters, reflecting a natural evolution from theater to politically charged television drama. Throughout her career, Atkinson has maintained a consistent, scandal-free professional path. Her deliberate choice of roles across stage, film, and television allowed her to remain relevant while avoiding the pitfalls of Hollywood fame. Her trajectory demonstrates a balance between artistic credibility and mainstream visibility, proving longevity can be built through steady, intentional work. As of 2026, Jayne Atkinson is 67 years old and remains active in film and television. She has been married to actor Michelle Gill since 1998, with whom she shares one son. With an estimated net worth of around $2 million, her career reflects enduring dedication, strategic role selection, and a life built on discipline, training, and professional consistency. Mykelti Williamson as Dwight Mercer. Mykelti Williamson was born on March 4, 1957, in St. Louis, Missouri, USA. At 36 years old, he played Dwight Mercer, the caring social worker who supports Jessie in Free Willy, 1993. His role added a grounded human perspective and connected the story to real-world struggles. Before gaining global recognition, Williamson had already spent years working in the industry, beginning as a performer at age 9 and even dancing with the Lockers on Soul Train in the 1970s. His major breakthrough came in 1994 with Forrest Gump, where he played Bubba alongside Tom Hanks. The film went on to win 6 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and grossed over $678 million worldwide, instantly raising his profile in Hollywood. However, his career faced a serious challenge in 1998 when he was arrested and charged with attempted murder after a stabbing incident involving his ex-wife's boyfriend. The case gained significant public attention, but during trial, he argued self-defense. The charge was reduced to attempted manslaughter, and he was ultimately found not guilty by a jury. Even though he was cleared, the situation placed his reputation under pressure at a critical point in his career. As of 2026, Mykelti Williamson is 68 years old and continues to work steadily in film and television, with roles in projects like Fences, 2016, and Chicago PD, His estimated net worth is around $2 million. Despite facing legal controversy, he maintained a long-running career, supported by consistent performances across major productions. Lori Petty as Ray Lindley. Lori Petty was born on October 14, 1963, in Chattanooga, Tennessee, USA. At 29 years old, she played Ray Lindley, the rebellious yet compassionate whale trainer in Free Willy, 1993. Her performance brought a sense of independence and emotional warmth that helped anchor the film's human side. But behind that confident on-screen presence was a far more unstable beginning. Growing up in Iowa during the 1970s, Petty lived in a household marked by violence and disruption. After her mother left an abusive father, the family fell into poverty, and her mother later struggled with drug addiction. As the oldest child, Petty was forced to take on adult responsibilities early, helping care for her younger siblings while navigating an environment that offered very little stability. Those experiences didn't disappear. They followed her into adulthood and eventually into her work. In 2008, she wrote and directed The Poker House, a film based directly on her own childhood. The project premiered at the Los Angeles Film Festival and was widely recognized for its raw depiction of abuse and survival. It wasn't just another film credit. It was a personal reconstruction of a life she had lived, turning trauma into something visible and difficult to ignore. In the years surrounding Free Willy, Petty also built a recognizable career in mainstream and cult films. A League of Their Own, 1992, released just 1 year earlier, grossed over $132 million worldwide and gave her significant exposure. Later, her role in Tank Girl, 1995, developed a cult following, even though the film underperformed commercially. Over time, her career shifted toward independent films and television, including her long-running role as Lolly Whitehill in Orange is the New Black from 2014 to 2019. As of 2026, Lori Petty is 62 years old and continues to work in film and television, with recent appearances in Station 11, 2021, and NCIS Origins, 2024. Her estimated net worth is around $3 million. Rather than following a traditional path of sustained mainstream fame, her career reflects something more complex: survival, reinvention, and a willingness to turn a painful past into stories that still resonate decades later. Michael Ironside as Dial. Michael Ironside was born on February 12, 1950, in Toronto, Canada. At 43 years old, he played Dial, the cold and calculating antagonist in Free Willy, 1993. His performance added a grounded sense of danger, creating a clear contrast to the film's emotional storyline. Before acting, Ironside worked physically demanding jobs, including roofing, while trying to break into the industry. That same resilience defined his later life when he faced multiple serious health battles. Over the years, he survived 3 different cancers: bowel, prostate, and thyroid, conditions that could have ended most careers. Yet he continued working steadily through treatment and recovery, rarely stepping away from the screen. His breakthrough came with Scanners, 1981, and he quickly became a recognizable face in action and science fiction films throughout the 1980s. Roles in Top Gun, 1986, and Total Recall, 1990, which grossed over $261 million worldwide, cemented his reputation as a specialist in intense, often ruthless characters. Instead of chasing leading man status, he leaned into these roles, building a career that would eventually exceed 270 film and television credits. Even as the industry evolved, Ironside adapted. He expanded into voice acting, becoming widely recognized as Sam Fisher in the Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell franchise, which sold over 30 million copies globally. He also voiced Darkseid across several DC animated series, proving his presence extended far beyond live-action roles. His ability to shift between film, television, and gaming kept him consistently relevant across multiple generations of audiences. As of 2026, Michael Ironside is 76 years old and remains active. He has been married to Karen Dinwiddie since 1986 and has 2 daughters. With an estimated net worth of around $6 million, his career stands as a rare example of longevity in Hollywood, built not on fame or headlines, but on persistence, adaptability, and the ability to endure both professional and personal challenges without fading away. Michael Bacall as Perry. Michael Bacall was born on April 19, 1973, in Los Angeles, California, USA. At 20 years old, he played Perry, Jesse's friend in Free Willy, 1993. His role was relatively small, but it came at a time when he was still trying to establish himself in an industry that rarely offers long-term security to young actors. At first, Bacall followed the traditional path. He appeared in films like Manic, 2001, where he both co-wrote and acted, showing early signs that he wanted more control over his career. But by the early 2000s, the reality of constant auditions and limited roles became clear. Instead of continuing to compete for screen time, he began shifting toward writing, quietly building a different kind of career behind the scenes. That decision started paying off in a measurable way. By 2007, he had already sold multiple scripts to major studios, including projects like Psycho Funky Chimp. His breakthrough came in 2010 when he co-wrote Scott Pilgrim vs. the World with director Edgar Wright. Although the film earned around $49 million worldwide, it later gained a strong cult following, significantly boosting his reputation in Hollywood as a writer capable of handling complex and stylized material. Just 2 years later, his career reached a new level with 21 Jump Street, 2012, which grossed over $201 million globally, followed by 22 Jump Street, 2014, with more than $331 million worldwide. He also co-wrote Project X, 2012, another commercial success. These films proved that his shift from acting to writing was not just a backup plan, it was a strategic move that placed him at the center of multi-million-dollar productions. As of 2026, Michael Bacall is 52 years old and continues working as a screenwriter and producer. With an estimated net worth of around $10 million, largely built from writing credits and film royalties, his career stands as a clear reversal of expectations. Instead of becoming a leading actor, he stepped away from the spotlight and ended up shaping some of the biggest comedy hits of the 2000s and 10s from behind the scenes. Danielle Harris as Gwenie. Danielle Harris was born on June 1, 1977, in Plainview, New York, USA. At 16 years old, she played Gwenie, Jesse's friend in Free Willy, 1993. Though her role was not central, it came at a time when she was already building recognition as a young actress in Hollywood. Behind the scenes, her early fame came with serious risks. In 1995, at just 18 years old, she was stalked by a fan who sent death threats and later appeared at her home carrying a shotgun. The man was arrested, but the incident forced her to live under heightened security and long-term psychological stress. Years later, in October 2009, she was granted a restraining order after he attempted to contact her again through social media, showing how long the situation continued to affect her life. Her rise actually began earlier, especially through the Halloween franchise in the late 1980s, where she became one of the most recognizable child actors in horror. By the mid-1990s, she had already worked alongside major names, including Sylvester Stallone in Daylight, 1996. Around that time, she even appeared in Teen People magazine as one of the New It Girls, alongside Scarlett Johansson, Jessica Biel, and Kirsten Dunst, placing her in direct comparison with future A-list stars. But that trajectory never fully materialized. While others from that same group moved into major leading roles, Harris struggled to find a breakout project that could push her into the mainstream. Instead, she gradually carved out a different path, embracing the horror genre. By the 2000s, she had become widely known as a scream queen, starring in films like Hatchet 2, 2010, See No Evil 2, 2014, and dozens of independent horror productions, maintaining a steady but more niche career. As of 2026, Danielle Harris is 48 years old and continues to work in film, television, and podcasting, including her show Talk Scary to Me, launched in 2021. She has been married to David Gross since January 4, 2014, and has 2 sons born in 2017 and 2018. With an estimated net worth of around $1.5 million, her career reflects persistence rather than mainstream fame, remaining visible in the industry for over 3 decades, despite never receiving the defining role that once seemed within reach. Richard Riehle as Wade. Richard Riehle was born on May 12, 1948, in Menomonee Falls, Wisconsin, USA. At 45 years old, he played Wade, the humorous yet grounded character in Free Willy, 1993. His presence added warmth and realism to the story, balancing the emotional tone of Jesse's journey and the family dynamics at the center of the film. Unlike many actors chasing stardom, Riehle built his career on consistency and skill. After earning a degree from the University of Notre Dame in 1970 and an MFA from the University of Minnesota, he spent years honing his craft in theater before moving into film. This foundation allowed him to thrive across genres and roles, eventually appearing in over 400 film and television projects, including The Fugitive, 1993, which grossed more than $368 million worldwide, Casino, 1995, and Office Space, 1999. What sets Riehle apart is the quiet steadiness of his career. He avoided Hollywood drama and scandals, instead earning a reputation as a reliable character actor. On television, he appeared in long-running shows like Grounded for Life, 2001 to 2005, and guest starred in major series including Star Trek, NCIS, and The West Wing, demonstrating remarkable versatility and professional longevity. Throughout his career, Riehle maintained a balance between work and personal life. Married to Jayne Latham since 1970 with 4 children, he cultivated stability at home while continuing to take on a variety of supporting roles that showcased his skill without chasing celebrity. His approach allowed him to remain active and respected in the industry for decades. As of March 2026, Richard Riehle is 77 years old and continues to be recognized as one of Hollywood's hardest-working actors. With an estimated net worth of around $2 million, his story is a testament to dedication, steady craft, and a life shaped by consistency rather than fame. Over 4 decades of continuous work without ever stepping out of the game. So for us, Free Willy is no longer just a film. It's a timeline of change. Careers rose, faded, or took unexpected turns, while one real story behind the movie still leaves questions no one has fully answered. So when you look at 1993 and 2026 side by side, are these transformations inspiring or quietly unsettling? If this journey surprised you, leave a comment with the one transformation you didn't expect. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.